that were the most popular, employed the most people in Kenya, are increasingly decreasing because we find that there's more technology being adopted, and so you find there's less people being employed in some spaces. But aside from that, there's also those careers that have increasingly been becoming popular. For instance, the unconventional ones such as the arts, sports, and the likes. And today we'll be talking about that. What are the careers of the future? And we're at the Kenyatta International Convention Center for this live broadcast. And we've already got a number of institutions that have set up. For instance, here you can see where guys can be playing football, for instance. We have the experience that is beyond just people just going to school and learning, but the experience beyond that. So we've got various institutions that have set up here, both academic institutions, that is universities. We also have different institutions that may not be at the university level, but are also here set up. We also have the Higher Education Loans Board, which is here to give the insight to those who would like to get into tertiary education on how they can get support on their financing. There's a lot to offer here. We're seeing various universities, various institutions. We could see mentorship programs, people who have mentorship programs who have set up here. And so we shall be looking at some of these issues. What does it take for one to get into one of these unconventional businesses? We have some young people who are going to be here to listen to the discussion and chime in when we're discussing the panelists, some of whom have already gotten into these unconventional businesses and are already mentoring people to get into these, because you find many people have wanted to do one thing, but on the flip side, they've ended up doing something different because it was not the most profitable career. And we'll be looking into that and much more. We've got a very powerful panel, one that is filled with many young people, which means that they're going to identify a lot with the audience that we are reaching out to, the audience that my network reaches out to, and we'll be seeing what exactly they're expected to do, that is the young people. Like, for instance, you've heard that HR will look at your social media usually when they're looking into hiring you. So what should you post online or not? What should you factor in when you're looking for a job, when you're choosing your subjects? And for parents as well, are you part of the reason why your children may not be that fulfilled because they are doing something that is more of your desire, more than their passion and their purpose? And so we'll be looking at this and much more as we get into this discussion. It's an exciting one, I must tell you. I guarantee it's going to be an exciting one. And so, like I said, we've got various institutions that have set up here. We've got a lot of young people here who are ready to get into this discussion, to understand and to hear what exactly we have to offer today and what they can base their decisions on as they go forward. Some of them want to get into the conventional ones. It is not to say that those conventional careers are not profitable or are not meant to be pursued. We still need doctors, we still need lawyers, we still need engineers and the likes, but we also need other people so that the society can be a balanced one. And so just as a quick one before we get the panel, I'll just speak to a young man very briefly. Maybe tell us your name and what do you want to become and at what level of education are you right now?
Yeah, my name is Steven Wamoya. I'm from Ruiru. I want to become an engineer.
Why don't you become an engineer?
Because of technology. As you can see, technology is taking over this country, and engineering is about technology.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You could see we already have, like I said, some people who want to get into what have been known as the conventional courses. And it's not to say that they are bad, just to say that because they were told whatever they had interest in was more or less something that is very unprofitable, so to speak. It could not put bread and butter on the table, or let's just say unga ugali. Bread and butter may be taken to be an elite thing. And so we shall be getting to this and a discussion about this. As we get into this discussion, my panel is here and ready to get moving. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. And as you can see, we've got a very good, powerful panel here seated with us. And I'd just like to begin by introducing them one by one. Just so you can understand what exactly we are going to be expected to. I'll begin from for the far end there. We have Celeste Olilo, who is the editor of My Network, which is one of the publications of the Daily Nation. That's Celestine Olilo. Then we have Robert Mutahi, who's the creative director of Urban Design Studios. We have Roy Gitahi, before I get to Roy, I have the good man who was once in our industry and decided that ni heri kuwa mshamba kuliko kuwa celeb. We have Caleb Karuga, who's the founder and CEO of Wendy Farms. He's a former journalist. I don't know that he still practices journalism on the side. He will tell us. And then we are going to have We have a lady here who's going to be speaking to us, and I mentioned about the issues to do with parents. Are parents making decisions for their children aside from what they are passionate about? And so we have Rosalind Keegan, who is a family and a marriage and family therapist. She'll be chiming into the conversation. Then we have Roy Gitahi, the CEO of Art at Work Limited. Art at Work. And we have Angela Obwaka, who's a HR practitioner. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll just begin very quickly right from Celestine. The first thing I want you to tell us, for the sake of guys to understand, what did you study and what are you doing now?
Thank you for having me in the panel today. I went to university and I studied the course that I was called to study, which was mathematics.
Mathematics?
Yes. But throughout high school, I've always been in journalism club, chair lady of the journalism club. So even when I was studying for the 4 years, I just knew I was going to be a journalist. And so while I was studying, I started sending stories to several media houses. When I finished, I was hired in a media house. So I've never practiced mathematics, but I'm here and I'm growing in my career. And yeah, so mine is a story that so many young people actually.
So you're a mathematician doing journalism?
Yeah.
Okay. Next. The first, just want to tell us what you studied and what you're doing now.
Well, I took fine arts, but it was a fluke. I actually took law for a whole year before I figured out I'm good in arts, which is, I actually commend you guys for doing this, because a lot of people, I was that kid who never knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. I didn't know there was a career in fine arts, yeah. So I went to campus, wasted a whole year, only to realize that I could draw better than the guys in fine arts class. And by the time I took my course in second year, I had gotten a job. So I took fine arts, and that's how I ended up in, graphic design and creative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Caleb.
I attempted to do IT in campus. Attempted because second year I quit. Then I attempted to go to a media school. I did 3 months, then I quit. Started my own business, and somehow I ended up being on TV for 6 years. Now I'm a farmer.
Wow. That's metamorphosis.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I did marketing. I worked as a marketer for 15 years. I left, ran a business, and went back to school and studied some psychology. And now I'm a marriage and family therapist. So from a marketing to a marriage and family therapist.
Okay. Roy.
I studied business administration and marketing. Ended up, I was also acting. Ended up in IT, right? Telcos, and now I run Art at Work, which is more about arts and facilitating creation of jobs in arts and sports.
Okay. Angie.
I think I'm the only one who is practicing what I studied. So I think
Which is fine.
Which is fine, and I'm sure my parents are very happy about that. But I studied HR and tourism. But the reason I chose HR is because I had a gap year, and I worked in HR. And so I looked at it, and I was like, I could do this. I could talk to people. And so I studied HR. And then I didn't work in HR. I went into academia, so I was lecturing. And then I came back full circle, back into HR.
Okay, and just coming back to you, and the first thing is a number of times we've seen when these young guys get to a point where they apply for jobs or they're looking for what to pursue. What are employers looking for right now? Because it has changed. What employers looked for when guys who have been employed in 1980 is not what they're looking for in 2020. What are some of the things that people need to be aware about so that even as they get into whatever courses they're in, they should actually be very keen about?
One of the key things that employers are looking for now is things that are not necessarily exactly what you studied, because the work world looks a lot different than your classroom. So in the classroom, they are very specific, it's a utopian scenario. So if X plus Y equals Z, for example. But in the real work world, and I'm sure the rest of the panelists will agree, there are a lot of factors that contribute. And so they were looking for people who are able to do more than just what is taught in class. So somebody who has volunteered somewhere, somebody who has done some group work, somebody who has understanding of more than just what the course is, because many of the people who will be your supervisor already have studied what you've studied. But if you're able to show that you can interact with people, you can work in teams, you can engage, you can think outside the box, you can communicate well, that would be something that would set you apart, because many people have similar qualifications, but it's the stuff that you're doing outside your, very rigorous timetable that is what is going to set you apart.
Okay, and Roy, today's discussion is centered on the jobs of the future. What are they? Well, what does that mean? Let's just begin also by just demystifying it, because we've got the jobs of today, the jobs of the future. What does that mean? Where are we leaning towards when you see where employment is heading?
Okay. I don't think anybody knows what jobs will be available tomorrow. All right? But we know that many jobs will evolve tomorrow. So the jobs we have today are being affected by things like automation, robotics, and mechanization. So you basically have things that have been taken over. For example, we used to have tellers in banks until the ATMs came along. So people now do not go to the bank to actually interact with the teller. It's the same thing with even accounting. You have got softwares that actually do what accountants were supposed to do. Today, we basically have surgeries that are happening across continents. So you have a doctor seated in New York, a patient in London, and the guy in New York is controlling a machine that is operating on a guy who's in London. So even that is going to be affected. So when we were growing up, our parents told us become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. Who didn't get that memo? Okay? So the thing is, but today, if you ask this generation what they want to become DJs, they want to become musicians, they want to become bloggers, vloggers. So already work has changed, all right? So the future is those things that this generation want to pursue. So we find that the world goes through different revolutions, and in each revolution, you'll always find jobs that are suitable for that particular revolution. The question then is, what are we doing to prepare them for what's coming in future?
Okay, and Rosalind, then this brings in a very key point that a number of times parents, the parents' generation would want their children to study what they grew up knowing was the lucrative thing. So you push your child to become a doctor, and maybe they're passionate about being carpenters. They want to make the great furniture we sit on. So, the young people will wonder, how do I go forward? My parents have almost, in quotes, blackmailed me. If you want me to pay your fees, you'll do what I want you to do. There are some who've raised that concern, and we have parents who feel this career won't give you money. So I want the best for you. So what is the balance, and how should each of those two parties approach it?
That's a very big question, and it's very common, where parents will sit with the children, and since dad didn't make it to be a lawyer or an engineer, and my son is very good in science, they're pushing their children to do the engineering. But the best thing that I would advise parents, and even the students who are sitting here, you need to sit with your children. You need to sit with your parent, and you sit and then discuss. In fact, you need to do a serious presentation and tell them why you've chosen the career you want to do now. And what I always advise young people is, what gap are you seeing in what you want to do? Don't do that. Since my neighbor or somebody's son is doing engineering, even me, I want to be engineer. And even for the parent, since somebody's son is abroad or in the UK doing engineering or doing doctor or being a doctor, even me, I want my son to be a doctor. Is what gap are you adding in this world? What value are you going to add? That's the question you need to ask. Even as you're choosing your subjects, what value are you going to add? Because what we see is abroad there are very many people coming with theories that we read in the university. And this is what you need to tell your parents. These things are learned in the university, but out there, it's a different ball game. So what value am I adding in this theory? What gap am I seeing that I need to add? And this is what parents need to see. There's no point of pushing your child. We've seen people who have gotten A's, and they're called to be doctors, but the second year, they drop. And then they have got no idea what it is. So the conversations need to start now. You need to start talking to your parents and tell them, you know what, I'm an A student, but I just can't do medicine. I want to do photography. There's nothing bad as that. Yeah, thank you.
The parents also have their part though to ensure that they, because it's a genuine concern, I guess. You feel your student, your child rather, is going to a space that may not be as lucrative, and you don't want your child to not have a bright future in your eyes.
The parents just need to, you need to change. We need to stop pushing our children to live our dreams. The fact that I did not make it to be a doctor, I should not push my daughter or my son to be a doctor. Is a bold change. In fact, it's a mind shift for parents. They need to understand, you know what? This child has a potential. This child has a purpose. What is it? And the only way you can learn about what your child really needs is when you spend time with this child. Not when you spend time with somebody else, but you need to spend time with your child and understand what their potential is and what their purpose is. Just a mindset for the parents.
Okay, before I come to Caleb, these two would like to chime in. I can see them nodding their heads. Just briefly.
The reason I'm saying that is she brings up a very important point. The question is, what do your parents know? All right? Against what are the opportunities that are out there? Because one of the things that we never do is deliberately educate parents on the options and the opportunities that are out there for their children. So the thing is, like for example, when your child comes to you as a parent and says, I want to become a lawyer, in your head, you already know this one will go to primary school, study hard, secondary school, study hard, university, school of law, school of medicine, school of engineering, correct? But when your child comes and says, I want to become a DJ, that pathway does not even exist in your head. So the thing is, it is understandable when a parent just loses it. But the thing is, have we sat down to explain to them, hey, by the way, this is a DJ, this is what a DJ does. This is the content that they create, this is the investment that they make. This is where they go to school, this is the revenue that they get, and this is how they make it sustainable. Then come to a YouTuber and say the thing, what is that YouTuber thing? Our parents hear of people making certain choices. They see their children spending a lot of time pursuing those kind of things, but they don't understand. Okay. Now we need to start creating pathways and trying to tell them this is how it is. I like what she said, because parents are the decision makers of career choices. If they decide to invest in something, they will invest in something. If they decide not to invest in something, we basically end up having half-baked people, okay, because our parents didn't bother. It
sounds like parents also need a course of their own to understand the jobs of the future.
We have an
Angie,
answer.
Briefly.
Another thing I wanted to add is parents, just advice to parents and also to students, of course, if you are interested in something. There's so much information out there, but your parents, or as parents, we are in workplaces. So if your child comes and says they are studying, they want to study, they don't want to do professional accounting, typically. They want to do financial engineering, because that's a new thing now. It's not, no, I've never heard of it, that's it. Find out from your colleagues, find out from your accounting colleagues, what is this thing? Because just because I don't understand it as a parent doesn't mean it's null and void, you know? And so it's tapping into my connections. As a parent, if I'm a professional, for example, I'm part of a professional body, and therefore I can connect with other people in professional spaces to find out more about this course, whether it's a mainstream course or it's like entertainment something, or even children. When you're coming to your parents and asking them about a particular course, research. That's your responsibility as a child, okay? If you're going to, the same way if you wanted to go for a party and you want to convince your parents that, please allow me for this party, you'll say, Mama so-and-so has approved this child. The pastor has even said he will come there and pray for the cake or something. You'll give incentives for your parents to be able to validate what it is you want to do. So you do your research, find credible people who are succeeding, like Roy said, and then be able to present that, not in a immature way also, not just coming and demanding, hata sita soma, if you're not, this degree is going to be, I mean, there's a way in which you can also present that, that makes, and the same thing happens in the workplace. If you ask for, sorry, this is radical change, but even in the workplace, because those people who are in workplaces, even when you go and ask for a salary raise, depending on the timing you go, how you ask your boss, all those things, which are applicable to all relationships, including with parents, the time you choose to present, how you present, the facts that you bring to the table. You need to be strategic about it, okay, yes, because it's going to impact you.
Caleb, you moved from just going back, like you said, to your university life, your studies, you kept moving to the point where you've settled in agriculture. What are some of the greatest lessons you've learned that especially the young guys who are still in the point of making decisions would actually borrow a lot from?
Wow, I think the mistake that I made, and I wish young people would listen to me, is that you don't know everything. That's number one. You don't know everything. I left media thinking I'll be this top shot farmer. I'm going to make a million every month. That was the expectation I had. Until I learned that I don't know anything. The argument in my mind was, I've grown up farming. I mean, my grandfather was a farmer, so how hard can it be? Let me tell you, farming is not easy. It's not sowing a seed and praying and rains come and then you go have it. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot of science and art that goes to farming. Number two, and this is very key for anyone listening to this, there's something called disruption. Be ready to be disrupted in your line of career. When we were journalists, we were taught how to hold a camera. I'm a very good cameraman. I'm a video editor. I'm a TV reporter. I can do everything, convergence. So that when the employer is looking for a reporter, you say, I'm not just a reporter. I can do A, B, C, D. I've gone beyond my call of duty. So whatever career you're choosing, like for me now in farming, I can, of course, I'm a farmer. I've been forced now to go on YouTube because that's where the masses are. That's where the numbers are. All right? So disrupt yourself before you become disrupted, because disruption is going to take place. So I think for me, jobs of the future is being able to forecast. Understand that whatever I'm doing right now, will my job be relevant 2-5 years down the line? For example, as we speak, I have about 8-10 women in my farm in Muranga who are weeding chilies. But I can assure you in the next 1 year, I will not need those 10 women because I'm going to have an electric machine to do the weeding. All right? So their jobs will be redundant, and I'm aware of that. When it comes to spraying of crops, we've been using the hands. So even in my field of agriculture, I'm not just staying there because that's why I keep saying ukulima sio shamba. You got to keep yourself updated with the latest technology. I'm a Blaze mentor with Safaricom, and one of the things we teach people is whenever you're online, what are you watching relevant to your career?
All right, thank you. And I want to come to you because you're in the creative space. And that's one of the spaces where we find young people want to get into that creative space, especially the more flamboyant ones. I want to be an artist. Yeah. Because I like music, I want to be an artist. Yes. Not because I'm good at music necessarily. You know? First of all, there enough space for all these young people who want to be part of the creative space?
Yes, there is a lot of money in the creative space. In fact, lots of it. And Roy will correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's only creative industries that are creating jobs. I mean, look at conventional industries. Everyone is laying down. It's only creative industries that are adopting people. Now, young people are not wrong to join the creative industries. And I would like to go back to what she said. I believe each and every parent has, the best interests for their offspring. So that when they say they want you to be an engineer, it's because they understand what engineering is. When they say they want you to be a teacher, they understand. I will tell you a very funny story. My parents, till today, can't explain what I do. They can't. My grandmother can't my mother says, my son draws. That's it.
So you're those guys who pull out, so what's your real job?
I'm a creative designer.
Lakini kazi yako ni gani?
You understand? So it's not something they can explain to their fellow women in chamas. You understand? And that's why for them, it's very difficult for them to advise their their children on what paths to take. Unfortunately, and we are lucky enough to be in the fourth revolution, which is the digital and data. So we are more advanced in terms of understanding, in terms of exposure than our folks. The government left them behind, so they are not able to advise their children, accordingly. So it's the duty of the young people to make sure they are able to research further. And it's the information age. You can be able to go to YouTube, online, and find whatever it is that will be the profession of the future in the next 10 years. The intersection between technology and conventional industry is going to determine what is going to be the careers of the future. And let's not confuse that, let's not think that traditional industries will fizzle out. They will not. They will just be colonized by technology. I mean, look at what is happening in the transport sector. Experience design plus the transport sector, give us Uber. All right? So you are either going to be the person who's supporting the tools, to make sure that Uber works, or you'll be out there looking for a job. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Celestine, you are a sports journalist, and you've been at it for a while, and you've done a lot of research in regards to sports. And we're seeing, people are getting to appreciate sports more. We're seeing, especially when we see our own sportsmen and women doing great things. We were used to seeing, especially the athletes, but now we've seen rugby, we've seen football, name it. What are we seeing many young people just getting into it because of the glory, or is there actually enough for them to actually base their whole life on? Because I know some of them will face the same challenge we spoke about. Wazazi wanasema hiyo ni mchezo. Quite literally.
Exactly. Yeah, so I've gotten that a lot, not just from my parents, but also from the people who I work with when I was a sports journalist full time. Because business, it's an industry. Yeah, sports is different from the other unconventional careers, because sports, you require a certain degree of talent to excel. All right. But now that the industry is opening up, you can do so much. You don't even have to be a sports person. You can be a support person to the sports person. There's agencies now. There's PR industries that have created that are dedicated to sports. For example, you saw the 159 Kipchoge. There was a lot of technology that went into having him excel. There were like hundreds of people who worked in different departments to ensure that he goes. Those people are not even athletes. They probably never even ran a kilometer in their life, but they understand that to make someone excel takes a village right now. And so the industry is really, 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 really opening up. But I'm worried about the role modeling. Because like Rosalind said, parents are not exactly comfortable with certain careers, and that's the truth. But I want to understand, why are they not comfortable with it? Because the fear must come from somewhere. When you tell your mom that you want to be a hairdresser in future, she's going to wonder, or wait, why is the difference? And my hunch is that we have done disservice to these careers, like the media especially, because role modeling is very, very key. Most probably you'll find that your parent who's worried about you becoming a hairdresser knows of 3 or 4 hairdressers who died poor, all right? Or maybe he knows about a certain DJ or another one and another DJ who never made a living, never made anything from being a DJ, you get? So what if we open up this space and we bring the successful DJs and artists and actors and all these people, and then we portray them as people who have actually succeeded because they are there, all right? Before we had Lupita Nyong'o, nobody really gave a damn about acting. But right now, parents are actually getting happy if the kids want to join acting. And so role modeling is a really, really important thing. And I'm glad that I'm in the media, and I'm glad that now I'm in a position of influence, because if you look at my network right now, I try to bring as many young people who are doing extraordinary things in unconventional industries, so that we can encourage other young people to know that you don't have to be a doctor to be rich. You don't have to be in the mainstream media to be rich. You can be a blogger and still make an impact in the society. Get what I mean?
Yes.
So role modeling is really, really important also, because once the people know that even if you're a DJ, you can be a respectable member of the society and you can make a contribution to the society, then the parents will not have a problem with it.
All right, that's some solid points, and I can see so many reactions. People are ready to react to that. And I think one of the things that we also need to address is, one, we've partly addressed the fact that parents are afraid. They kind of have the fear because they don't see where does this end up in. The people who they've seen, you've said about when role modeling, some are not the best of role models. Right from high school, you go to drama clubs and you're told you like to act, but don't go to drama club. Hapo ndio wanavuta bangi, hapo ndio wana all that. So and it's partly not just the parents' fault. It's also because of the trend that has been set before. Okay, and so then she's raised some good points. How do we address this? I'll begin with Rosalind, then we can come this way.
Yes. I think we need to look beyond richness and beyond money. We need to look more of internal self. As a student, if you want to become a DJ, or if you want to become a lawyer, you want to become an engineer, you want to become a farmer, do you have the discipline to do that? does your parent see you trying to do all those things? Or is she the one, is your mom at the age of 30 still waking you up to go look after the, wake up early, practice, read, research. Let people around you seeing there's some passion and there's something you're doing that is different. I'm very sure when she's talking about sports journalism, she wakes up, she reads, she blogs. And what she blogs, I don't know, I'm very sure you blog or you read. And whatever she's writing is something that makes sense. That when I'm reading it, I'll say, yes, there's something in this girl that is coming out. But when you say you want to become a DJ, your dad gives you permission to go out. You come home drunk. You come home after 2 days. We don't know where you are. Tell me why I should support your passion. You need to be serious. We need to start growing up and get serious. We cannot sit here as Kenyans and wait people from the Western country to come with ideas. We need to come, the ideas need to come from here. And the way ideas come from here is getting serious with what we want to do.
Very solid point. So that brings it away from just being about the parents. There's also the part of, it's easy for the young guys to point at the parents, my mom, this, my dad, or my guardian did not. But then you also have a part to play. Roy, another challenge is that, parents are not seeing some certification. I want to become a DJ, lakini makaratasi iko wapi? Utenda umix after 4 months, you come and tell me you're ready to start a life. After 4 months, but our parents have come from a place of you do 4 years. Alafu hapo now you can tell me you're ready for that.
Very true. And the thing is, this is what now my company does. Art at Work is more about trying to create sustainability in careers in sports and arts. And one of the things that we came to realize very quickly was, number one, people do not take that seriously. It is a joke, it is a hobby. If any of you, if your parents found you playing football on a Tuesday during a school week, what do you think would happen? You just, exactly, you actually discover your mother knows 3 forms of Taekwondo, all right? Now, why is that? Because the thing is, at the end of the day, they do not see money. If you look at the village, which is what it is that we look at, I usually say, what would my mother say? Every time when we create a business model, I usually ask, what would my mom say? And the thing is, the reason why people are compelled to start a business is because they can see other people succeeding in that particular business. So in a village, you see there's a butchery alone. The guy buys a car, he builds his house. Then the next week, you have got 20 butcheries that are there. Then they don't do well. Then a guy puts up a bar. He does so well, everybody now starts a bar. So we never actually do a lot of research into that, which then brings us to the point of, because we think arts and sports are hobbies, many businesses do not invest in actually creating models around that, all right? So for us, what we look at is, how do you identify talent in a child? Number 2, where do you take that child to grow that particular talent? Number 3, how do you monetize that particular talent, and how do you make it sustainable? Now, if you take all those career paths, then you'll begin to understand. Like, for example, we've identified 170 career paths in sports and in arts. And also what we've come to realize is your parents will never pay for something that doesn't have a certificate at the end of the day. Never. So the thing is, sports, arts, they don't have certification. So what now we're doing is we are working with NITA, which is basically the National Industrial Training Authority, to actually create what are called competency frameworks. How do you assess those particular competencies? How do you test those competencies? And then how do you certify those competencies? So now careers in arts and sports will now start getting certificates at the end of testing certain competencies. Now the next thing that we have done is, how do we bring the HR community or the public service and say, can you assign job groups to these particular career paths? Once you assign job groups, they come with a salary. At the end of the day, you can now be able to say, I want to become a blogger, a vlogger to your parents. This is the job grade, and this is how much money they earn. That now begins to start getting acceptability of certain careers in arts and sports, because we talk about our creative, talented youth, then use the word unemployment in the same sentence. It's ironic, that makes sense.
The creative wants to speak immediately.
I agree with Roy. I think the creative economies have always been regarded as for idlers, watu wa mchezo, the people who are not serious. You know, and
those who didn't pass
exactly
to get to the conventional jobs.
Exactly, which is very wrong. And I know a bunch of people who, you know, took conventional courses, but today they wouldn't even, they wouldn't even survive with their salary if they went and look out for a job from what they studied. You understand? Creative economies have the potential of employing so many people. The only problem is the fear of the unknown. If parents don't understand it, the government has no policies. We have a fundamental problem. So many people go through school without figuring out what they'll ever want to be. So many people. They get to campus and they're going through flyers, figuring out where to fall. But if it's something they knew from the word go, like schools are able to identify talent and ascertain and start shaping that talent, then it becomes very easy such that this person has a path to follow. Unfortunately, it's not the case. And a lot of people start trying out at the age when they're supposed to be fending for themselves. So the parents are just worried. I don't want you to be that useless boy who lives in his mother's house and I have to bear this shame with everyone else. Yeah.
I think, I also think there is a conflict of what our parents know as a truth and the new truth we are giving them. Because conventionally, they know you go to school, secretarial course, you get a job, you get married, the usual. But you're coming and telling your parents, okay, Dad, there's this thing I want to do. So even the way we are communicating matters a lot. I remember when I left media, my dad was slightly disappointed. I could hear in his voice because he was saying, won't you be mentioning my name on TV anymore? Like, you want to get into farming? My grandmother today, she still laughs at me that I sell managu in Nairobi, where she feeds the cows. But it's until, I think, on Friday, last week on Friday, I was in Nyeri and I talked to her and she's like, I heard you are in China in November. You went to talk about farming? Like, yeah. Oh, so this farming, it's good, eh? Then she's like, lakini hauna shamba China. Tola, Shosho, I'm a consultant in agriculture. So we need to get to a point where we tell the young people that when you're communicating, communicate the opportunities available in the value chain. Because if you tell your parents you want to become a farmer, first thing they think, old, tattered man, gumboots, kila kitu, eking a living. But if you communicate, you know what? I'll create an app that is going to help the producer meet the consumer. Now we are having a conversation. But when you just say, I want to become a farmer, I want to become a DJ, your parents are like, that's it. Tell them there's more to DJing. There's more to being a farmer. All right, that's I say kulima sio ushamba.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to come to Angie because as a HR, the people who look at the employment aspect of things, and we're hearing all these changes, and we are seeing the needs in the marketplace are changing consistently. Whatever we've been taught in school, by the time you finish your degree, your degree is almost half useless because that industry has changed so much. So many jobs are becoming pretty much useless, or they're becoming less necessary. Do we feel that enough is being done to train people for the future? Because, for instance, like he said, in the next 1 year or so, he may have to let go of some people, not because they're not good at their job, but because their job can be replaced more efficiently and more cost-effectively, especially in this economy. And so jobs are moving to what he said, the online space, or be the creatives and the like. Do you feel that enough is being done to counter the need now, that we are training people enough to meet the demand for the new jobs?
Thanks for that question. A couple of things, and I think I could dwell on the negative, but I also want to focus on the positive. One of the things that I've noticed quite a bit, and I'm glad there are a number of universities here, is many universities are now making IT as an integral part of the course. So whatever you're studying, recently we were doing interviews for somebody in agriculture. So one of the benefits of being in HR, you're always interviewing for different careers. So it's really fascinating and you learn quite a bit. So it was somebody somebody in agriculture and with agronomy something. But this person had graduated from a university where they focus on agriculture throughout the degree and, of course, traditional methods, but they do a lot of IT from first year. How do you do, so if you're learning about planting, you're doing planting with IT, so traditional planting, and this is with IT. If you're doing about spraying, etc. So I think that some universities have at least stepped up, and there are support organizations that are also partnering with universities to be able to feed in that information, to be able to say, okay, this is what you're teaching, but we need to supplement that. The other thing is, I know a lot of courses also allow for attachments and in industrial training or internships. So take those opportunities, whether or not it's part of your course, and that's a thing I encourage young people all the time. Spend your holidays not just sleeping, because when you're in school, you are waking up, going to class, etc. Don't spend your holidays sleeping. You will sleep later when you are settled in your house somewhere, or during Christmas when you've overeaten or something, whatever. But use holidays to be able to go and volunteer somewhere. You're hearing that in the creative arts, you have for example, like this, you have a network fair, attend those. There's a workshop somewhere, attend those things. Volunteer, you don't even have to be paid, because nowadays people are like, no, I want an internship or a volunteer opportunity where they're going to pay me. If they're not going to drop me in the office, no, please, know your place. Like Caleb said, you don't know everything, okay? And there are other people there. Just give yourself to being taught and being mentored, being mentored and being taught what's going on. And then the other thing, last thing, is another thing that Caleb said, is about whatever course you're studying, because I know somebody had said before you came here, you had interviewed somebody and they said they wanted to do engineering, right? Just because you're hearing all the jobs are in creative spaces doesn't mean, if you're gifted in mathematics, for example, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to go into engineering, you want to go into medicine, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, don't be so single-eyed about, okay, when I finish, I'm just going to become a gynecologist, and that's all I'm going to know. I'm not even going to pay attention in the other classes, because a lot of these, when you study in school, you do, let's say, 48 courses. You don't have to just be a medical doctor working in a clinic, right? With your medical degree, you can go into telemedicine. You can go into just different things. So even with, for example, the ladies who are going to, unfortunately, lose their jobs, now we're already talking about them losing their jobs on your farm. In this time, say for example, they're exposed to this information, they can learn something in these 6 months, all right, with either what they studied in school. So if you've studied financial engineering, you can go into risk management, you can go into insurance, you can go in, there's so many options. So don't just be so focused on, most people who graduate this course do this particular thing. Look at all the units you have done. Look at which one was most exciting to you, and maybe pursue something in that, so that you can plug into the creative space, but as the accountant of the creative space. You can be the journalist who is covering those events. So it doesn't have to be the traditional, what you have been taught, people who graduate from here, what has always been done. You can do something differently.
Okay, Rosalie wanted to respond to that, then
yes,
Caleb.
Very briefly. Most of the students here will finish university. Maybe some are finishing this year, some the next 2 years. But the issue that we have, and maybe challenges the HR practitioners, is when you put an advert, even for me as a parent, and my daughter or my son had just 2 years, 5 years experience, is also what is very demoralizing the young people around here. And the other thing is know who is who. I have to know this person to get this job. So what I want to advise is that 2 years experience coming from a corporate world is very important for a person who's going to employ you. But there's one thing you can do is, during your holidays, as she said, go knock, even at Java, tell them you want to even to wash, to clean the tables, something small, and that thing will add on your CV, yeah? Go look for him, tell him, I'll carry your bag, and I'll walk with you, nitakuwa mtu wa mkono. That thing will add a CV, and that will add. You know, these small things for 2 weeks, 3 weeks that you do will add on your CV. And you know what, when the job adverts are there, that 2 years experience, those small jobs will count as your experience. And you'll be better than a person who's worked in one job, 2 years in one job,
Right.
because you've done many jobs.
I think Caleb had something to add.
All right. If there's something I do intentionally and I will tell you, if you look at your network of friends, and sorry if I'm going to sound a bit harsh, you're the brightest person when you're kusema. Please look for someone else who's going to talk and you shut up. I'm giving you for free. Please. I am a farmer, I consult, people come to my farm. There are farms I go, I keep quiet. Unanyamaza, you learn. Your networks. Man, there's nothing as powerful as strengthening your already existing networks. If it's a New Year resolution, you're planning on losing weight, the next thing is lose those people who are not helping you. All right? She talked about volunteering. Let me say this. I get CVs sent to my email, sending chicks to Nakuru. Could you join me? And probably we can have a conversation along the way. They're like, unanilipa ngapi? I'm like, okay. I thought spending 2-3 hours with me, 10 years of experience in farming, I could say something that could help you. But you want me to pay you to accompany me, takununulia lunch, I understand, I don't have a problem. But take opportunity, grab what she's saying, grab those opportunities of volunteering. I tweeted the other day and I said, probably you need to volunteer at a farm because you could be allergic to soil. There's only one way of knowing whether you're allergic to soil. Volunteer at a farm. The key thing is volunteer, and that volunteering won't come by me telling.
Based on the feedback you get and what the young people are saying, what are they looking for? What are they, when you talk about careers, are we seeing more people now trying to get into the creative space or to the sports or the likes? Where are the young people going, especially in light of how millennials have become quite a...
Good question, because since I started working on my network, I've been privileged to interact with so many young people on a daily basis. And I've gotten to understand a little bit more about what goes in their mind. And so let me start by what Caleb and Angela said. That's, that notion then for them to come and do internship, it comes from somewhere. Some of these kids, once they finish school, their parents abandon them. Like, tumesha kupeleka shule, now you fend for yourself. So when you tell someone that they're going to be coming to your office every day and they're thinking that they live all the way in the other side of town and they need to come, it's challenging. So, Angela, when you go and sit with your fellow HR managers, explain to them that it's not because we love money so much, but if you can just pay our transfer, they can also not feel that they're becoming a burden to their families. Also in volunteering, like, it's just important to make things easier for the young people also, because they get really frustrated when they have to ask their parents for money every day and they're going to an internship that has lasted 6 years because nobody's giving them a permanent job. It's quite frustrating. And then now the question you asked about what young people are looking for, it's changing now. It's shifting, because during our time, and I believe I'm one of the older generation of millennials, I think we've gotten used to being disappointed, because it is around our time that the markets, the job industry started becoming extremely competitive. And so it was very difficult to get jobs. And I know so many of my classmates who, to date, and it's been 6 years, they've never gotten a job. And they were better than me in school. Like, they performed really, really well. And so through those years, they have gotten used to the fact that, even my brother, even my neighbor, she went through school, never got any job, like she's just in the house. So now their mindset has changed, because nature abhors vacuum. So now they're not going to school so that they can get employed. They have changed. And it's really, really encouraging when you hear stories of people who are saying that, me, I'm not looking for employment after high school, after college. This college, I'm going to be doing makeup for my friends. And when I finish college, I'm going to ask for a loan from the Youth Enterprise Fund, and I'm going to start my own small space where I'll be doing makeup for other people. And also, another thing, some are not even looking for the money aspect. It's really encouraging when you hear someone tell you that, me, I want to ensure that people in the rural areas get access to education. So I'm going to create an app and I'm going to go to schools, or I'm passionate about climate change. So I'm going to make sure that I create an organization that we are going to be planting trees in every primary school or secondary school every so often, so that we can increase the forest cover. So those proactive things are what young people are going into right now, because they are almost giving up on the job industry. This notion that you should go to school and then you're going to get a job automatically, young people are now moving away from it, and it's really, really encouraging. Although there's also the flip side for where now it makes the government now to be too relaxed, because it is their responsibility to expand the job market.
All
And
right.
so now, because the young people have now taken matters to themselves and they're saying that now I'm going to do something about it, it's one part encouraging, it's the other part is frustrating because...
Right. Roy, I know you want to speak. I just want to address the issue of, she's mentioned some very solid points. However, I feel that is more applicable to those guys with a personality that are entrepreneurial personality. That not everyone is called to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone will be like Caleb, leave media and go become a farmer, for instance. So what, create my own app. So what happens to those?
It's interesting that you'd ask that, because the thing is, we all imagine that we are something that we are not. For example, the young people want to become celebrities, they want to become influencers, they have no idea what it takes to be that kind of thing. And one of the challenges that we have actually found in developers who are interested, there's a difference between the two, all right? Interest is that you will sing in the shower, that is good, all right? Talent is that you can actually make it a career, all right? And very many people get stuck in interest when there's no hope for monetization, all right? So the thing is, you need to know and accept certain things. If you're not meant for singing, you can do something else, all right? You can do something else. Now, the process of sifting through those particular talents and then assigning pathways for them is actually very difficult. But at least the government has also started doing something about it. The new competency-based curriculum, CBC, all right, is actually, in my opinion, has been one of the best things that they have done, because they've actually looked at the future of work and then now tried to align people into that future of work. And what they're doing with private sector players like ourselves is we're saying, how do we align CBC to actual life careers? Because if you'll go out and find a job, but are we targeted at exactly what it is that we're doing and saying that there are these kind of opportunities that will be available in the next 10, 15 years, all right? And let us prepare these people, because you can have a course, you're studying to become an engineer. But the thing is, what are the competencies required to become an engineer? Because today, about graphic design, when you're talking about special effects, all those things, by the way, it's coding. It's IT. So these are what we used to think about. It was not that thing of your legs apart, together, a kick across. No. There's kinetics. There's actually muscle. There are people who studied PE and now are being consulted by doctors and human movement than the doctor.
Okay.
All right? So let people not think that when we're talking about arts and sciences, that we are now talking about PE and those kind of things. You're talking about cardiology. You're talking about consistent over time. It's statistics.
Okay.
All right? So it's math.
Thank you very much, and that's some very good insight. A lot more can be said on this topic. I mean, it's not something that you can thrash out in a 1-hour panel discussion, not even in a whole day, quite honestly. There's a lot of that. And at this point, I'd just like to, who's the editor of My Network magazine, and she's also a sports journalist, and she's really passionate about the youth, as you can even hear from when she speaks. We have Robert Mutahi, the creative director of Urban Design Studios. We have Caleb Karuga, the founder and CEO of Wendy Farms. He's the guy who says, ukulima si ushamba, right? Si ushamba, mtu wa shamba. Then we have Rosalind Keegan, who's a marriage and family therapist. Thank you as well for, Chai has spoken about, as well as Roy Gitahi, the CEO of Art at Work Limited. And so at this point, I just think we're very passionate about it as Nation Media Group, just to ensure that we give a platform to the different, karibu sana, boss.
Thank you very much to the 9th edition of My Network Career Fair. This edition focuses on careers for the future. I think all of us are interested in the future, and therefore the theme, thinking about your future, is everything that we do on every day, at the parents, the students, and everybody. When you meet your grandfather, your grandmother, they talk about what are you doing next. Now, when you leave college, you get a certificate. The certificate is a document. This document, I'm looking for someone who can solve my problems. So you use your thinking, which has been derived from the certificate, which you got from school, to solve problems. We call it, in the labor market, we call it, it's going to create value for the organization. Take an example. Today, we have a problem with the locusts in this country. So the network has done is, We've been able to mentor students, we've mentored parents, we've mentored all people who are looking for ways of moving to their next level. Over the last, I think from 20 parts, I think our panel here deserves that recognition because they are experts in their field. We've got HR experts who is out there for ourselves. This is the place that provides you that opportunity. Now let me move further and look at a theme for today, careers for the future. One today will be doing different jobs from what you people are doing. Only 35% is relevant. Most of the careers that we have today are irrelevant for the future. So the question is, how do you position yourself as relevant for the future? We've all heard of big words like artificial intelligence, robotics. The other day I saw on news being presented by a robot. Today, the best advice, legal advice, is not given by a lawyer. It's given by machine. Basic evaluation of your medical condition will not be done by a human being. It will be automated. You'll just maybe press your button. It's changing. Let me tell you a story. When I started working, the buzz thing was computerization. Survived are those who understood computers. Today, the whole thing of digitalization and the digital environment for you to survive. The unfortunate thing, however, is, and Kenya has the highest unemployment rate in this region. That's a challenge to us all. It's a challenge to our policy leaders because we are saying they'll be relevant in the future. So the challenge we have to our policy holders, our leaders, is to systems to fit into this future. I think the 2 days that we have today, courtesy of the Nation Media Group and my network, which is to meet various providers and interact with the experts. And I believe you'll benefit from this. And please, the young, determine who you are. If you think you'll start being serious when you get employed, that will never happen. You'll never be serious. If you think you'll do well when you get a job at home, do you listen to your parents? Do you listen to your neighbors? When you are alone in a bedroom, what are you doing? The behavior that you discover that actually this is the wrong person because we were cheated by the certificate. The certificate is your character. Let me tell you the other thing which is very important when you go to career selection is you must like it. It's about your passion. When I was young, my mother insisted I have to be a doctor. So I did serious under skeleton. So after a week, I ran very fast from that course. So don't do anything that is not your passion. Do something that you like. Patience. You will not be treating your mother. Sorry to say that. You'll be the one sitting there with the patient. So you must do what you like and do it well. It is only the good people that survive. If you are just an average performer, I'm sorry. And you are only an average 2 days, and I'm sure you will not leave here empty-handed. You will leave here with something that you can go back home and think about. And I can tell you, the HR practitioners who are here, we have had students who have also got internships, students who have...
Thank you very much, Bona Stephen Gitagama, our Chief Executive Officer. And before we release our good panelists, it's only fair that we allow some of the young people to ask 1 or 2 questions. So we'll take a few questions from the audience, then we'll have the relevant people respond to them. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. We'll come to you, and then you can... Oh, there's a microphone there. Okay, please just introduce yourself, say your name, and very briefly just ask your question or your comment.
Thank you so much. My name is...
Just come forward, come into the light. Good, yeah, Apo Sawa.
Thank you. My name is Isaiah Asava. I have a question. So many of you have talked about passion. And now to avoid these we've grown in schools where we don't have facilities like sports, those laboratories. So we really don't know what we are passionate about. The schools, it's only teaching mathematics. So because it's the only thing you end up doing that mathematics and doing your best at mathematics. And maybe you don't have passion for it, but you'll just struggle in doing it. Now, how do you know what, how do you
know what you're passionate about?
Yeah, and please, also another question. Briefly. Okay, there are various tertiary learning institutions like universities and colleges. Now, is it a wastage of resources and time to take maybe a B plus to a college that requires a minimum entry of maybe a C and you have a B plus? Maybe you've not qualified for the course at the university. Okay. Now, is it a wastage of time and resources? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And to join us to answer some of these questions, we have Jane Mirori, who is a senior HR manager at Nation Media Group. And I'll throw into the deep end to just begin by responding to his first question was, how do you know what your passion is? Because that's something that has come out very clearly. You have to be passionate about something. How do you get to know that?
Good morning. My name is Jane. I work as a HR practitioner, and I also write in my network. I didn't train as a journalist, but I just got interested in writing, and I decided to, and Nation Media Group was kind enough to give me that opportunity. Before I respond to that question, I'd like to just make a comment on one of the comments that one of the panelists, I think she's a coach, who asked that most of the times we ask for experience. But what I'd like to tell you is that sometimes it doesn't have to be experience that you have gained from the job market. Some of you, when you're in school, you're school captains. So it means your coordination and planning is good. So when you come for interviews, you need to think out of the box. You don't have to have worked to gain experience. Yeah, you talk about the experience that you have gained. Some of you are leaders in churches, yeah, or even in your groups. Some people have some social groups and they are leaders. So that already proves that you're a leader. So when you come for an interview, don't only think of the experience you've gained from the job market. So that's a clarification I wanted to make. The other comment I wanted to make before I answer the question is that we have a problem sometimes as Kenyans. When you see your neighbor start a business, you get somebody else starting the same business. Now, I saw recently on the newspaper, I think it was even in my network, we have a young lady who has come up with a very interesting concept. So when most of us come to town, if you don't have a car, you're carrying a bag. And maybe you want to run some few errands. This lady has opened a shop somewhere where she has some shelves. You can go, drop your bag, pay some money, run your errands, and pick your bag. I thought that was quite a good, initiative. And for the people who sell their products online, they also have an opportunity of renting a shelf. They display their goods. And then, now back to answer the question. How do you know what is your passion? It is very simple. Your passion is what interests you. So when you're not in school, like that young man, or when you're not in college, what do you like doing? Maybe you like surfing the net, maybe you like football, maybe you like cooking. So it means your career should be maybe in cookery, maybe you just like fixing things in the house. So you can be a technician. So there is no, you don't need a big exam to find out what is your passion. Your passion is what interests you when you're not doing schoolwork. That is what is your passion. However, if you're confused and you'd like to know what is your passion, we have coaches, and we have a coach just here, and I'm also a coach, and there are very many coaches. You can go to a coach and discuss with them, because a coach is able to bring out your potential, and it will help you know what your passion is. So there are solutions to everything. Thank you.
Okay, there's something, where are you?
Caleb, just a second. We're going to get to that in just a bit. I'd just like us, first of all, to close the live broadcast. Then we'll continue with our question and answer here. We're really grateful that you've been watching this edition, the first of 2020 of my Network Career Fair, where we're talking about the jobs of the future, what should be expected in the coming years. The CEO of Nation Media Group has said that according to the World Economic Forum, about 65% of the current jobs will not be in the coming years. And so how do we then fashion ourselves, prepare ourselves for the marketplace, even when we're hearing all these changes coming. So we're glad you've been watching with us, and you're welcome to the KICC, where we are having this event, and it's running today and tomorrow, so you can come and be part of this experience. Young people, come and understand what you need to understand, ask the questions you have, get to be connected to the various institutions that you need to get to, or to understand what is expected of you. And thank you very much once again to my panelists and to the Nation Media Group. My name is Dan Mwangi. Like the CEO said, I said I'm done. We're done for this broadcast, but we still continue our discussions on this discussion on this platform. Thank you very much for joining us. The live broadcast ends right now.
Accident.
Clear context to all the relevant issues.
Reacquire the property they've gotten with our looted money and save this country for my child and